Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, since I finished the LSA blower swap on the car, I still never installed the wiper motor, primarily for the fact that it doesn't fit anymore. So you can see where the stock Thirdgen motor used to sit, and with the blower installed, there's absolutely no room to reinstall it. I mean, the stock one is relatively bulky and big, but to get around that and get the wipers working again, I think I found a solution. I did a little digging online between Thirdgen.org, LS1 Tech, just random Google searches, trying to figure out a solution to putting the blower on and having a wiper motor. I ran across maybe one or two threads with this motor. One guy in particular, I believe, he said he was driving like a Maxima as his daily driver. Somehow he ended up swapping the Maxima motor into his Thirdgen, and it fit relatively well. Obviously the wiring is not going to be the same. The mounting holes are kind of close, but you do have to drill new ones in the firewall. As for the actual linkage, I think you have to weld the Maxima one onto the Thirdgen arm. I'm not 100% on that. I really haven't done anything with this as far as fitment. I'm gonna have to pull the cover off on the cowl, as well as figure out which wires do what on the Thirdgen side. So this is gonna fit in here just like that. I'm gonna have to move this vacuum canister out of the way. Probably gonna move it behind the blower over there. There's a little bit of space, but this is gonna sit like that. I'm gonna drill two holes at the top, one at the bottom right. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be using the fourth hole. I have to see once I get the other ones mounted up where it's gonna sit, because the firewall kind of slopes down over there. I don't know if this is gonna be hanging over the edge of that, but that's gonna sit there like that. Then I'm gonna go pull the plastic off the top here, get the linkage hooked up, and lastly we'll wire it. So I just about got the wiring figured out. Now, I'm not going to be able to use the park feature for this, and I'll explain in a second. But the way I pretty much wire this up, by turning the switch on low inside the car, this gray wire gets power. Turn it to high, that loses power, and the purple one gets power. So I know the purple is the high speed, gray is the low speed. On the Maxima motor, the blue wire here I'm using as my ground. Now the white one, the blue one, and the red one are low speed, high speed, and ground. You can hook these up a bunch of different ways polarity wise, but the way I have mine set up, and what I believe is the correct way, is with the blue one here as the ground. And all I did was connect a spade terminal to that wire, and I grounded it to the body here. Now you'll see if I probe the red wire here, this is the low speed. Wipers come on low speed. Now the white one down here, which is the high speed, that's high. So blue's getting grounded, white's gonna be getting the purple wire, which is the high speed coming off the Thirdgen harness, and the red one there is gonna get the gray wire. Now for the park feature, I was looking at a bunch of videos on YouTube, and two I came across describing how the park feature works. I'm gonna put them in the description below. But basically there's two wires back here. There's one terminal here, and there's one terminal here, right beside this one here for the low speed. And those two control the park circuit. Now I think that my motor, the park circuit inside the motor is shorted out. This is a used motor from '89, so it's not too surprising. But I tried multiple times to get the park feature to work, and all it does is just blow fuses, or if I'm using the power probe, it just trips the breaker. I went through all these fuses over here trying to get it wired up. But the way it works, on the Thirdgen side, this green wire, which is for the park, once you turn the wipers off, this gets power. And the way the park feature works is there's a switch inside of here. When the wipers are on and the motor's spinning, the switch, once it gets to a certain point, the switch moves over. and it just keeps doing that over and over. Now the way that works is once you turn the motor off, this green wire energizes one of these two in the back for the park, and even though the low speed over here isn't getting power, this green one is going to continue to supply power until the motor comes around to that switch and switches it over and then turns it off pretty much in the park position. But between those two wires, I know for sure the green one is the park on the third gen side. So the way this is supposed to work is you give one of these power, the wipers are supposed to continue moving until they hit that switch. If I'm controlling it with the switch inside the car, the fuse just blows. If I'm controlling it with the power probe, the breaker just trips. So I'm pretty sure the park is dead inside this motor. I'm not really going to do anything about it now. I might go and pick up a new motor in the future and see if I could get it wired up, but I really don't have any use for it anyway, because if you could see, let me just hook this back up here. I don't drive this car in the rain. The only reason I'm hooking this up is so I have them kind of like an emergency if I get caught in the rain. But literally all I got to do is when they're on low, and once I come down to the bottom, I can just turn them off. And that's it, that's my park. But if you're trying to wire this up and you want the park to work, those are the two wires on the Maxima motor that you need to use. All right, so everything's wired up and ready to go, so let me show you how it's working. All right, so all I did was come in here, I extended the low speed and high speed wires, crimped on a couple of spade terminals, and then made the connections right there in the motor. I just zipped everything nice and tight. I really have to look and see if I could find a connector for this motor, because water and crap is gonna get in there. But I kind of just put a bunch of dielectric grease in there for now, so hopefully that'll keep the corrosion away. But come inside the car. So low speed. Now I do have the high speed hooked up. I'm just not going to be putting it on for the fact that my wiper transmission is pretty much shot. The passenger side wiper has a shitload of play, plus I'm missing a stop I have to replace. So if I put it on high, it pretty much just flicks down and gets stuck underneath the glass there. Now I do run 16-inch wipers on mine, reason being, as I said, with the play and the linkage, no matter how much I adjust it, this wiper goes past and goes onto the paint. So to avoid that, I just stepped it down to a smaller wiper. It really doesn't make a difference. And then for bringing them to a stop, as I said, being I don't have the park hooked up, I'm just going to stop them as they come down. You can see the amount of play this one has, and the other one doesn't even move. So as this comes down, that extra play on high speed throws it below the glass here, and then it doesn't come back up. So I gotta see if I can get a new transmission for the wipers. But yeah, before I wrap this up, just a quick recap on how to install this thing. So as you saw, you're going to want to make your own holes to mount it up. As far as finding the position, all I did was get it centered so the rubber boot on the motor perfectly covers up the hole in the firewall, and then I just marked the 3 holes and drilled them out. Put 3 bolts with washers and lock washers on the inside, and just hooked the 3rd gen linkage end onto the motor and put the 13mm bolt in. And for wiring it on the Maxima side of the motor, that blue one right there on the top middle, that's going to be your ground. That you can just ground it to the motor like I did there. White one is going to go to the purple wire coming off the 3rd gen harness, which is the high speed, and the red one there is going to go to the gray wire on the 3rd gen harness, which is the low speed. And then lastly, for the actual park, if you have a motor that actually has a functioning park circuit, unlike mine, the 2 bottom ones below the white and blue one here in the back, those are going to control the park circuit. One of the terminals is going to get connected to the green wire on the 3rd gen side, or whichever wire has 12 volts when the wipers are fully turned off. And then the other wire is going to be fed off of the low speed power wire. So you could just run a jumper wire from the low speed terminal here over to that one. And what that's going to do is when you turn, whether your wipers are on high or low, if they're on high, you're going to come down to low before you're turning them off. So you want to tap into the low speed side. So once this low speed wire stops getting power, the power is going to go through the green 12 volt wire on the 3rd gen side and supply power to the motor until the switch comes around and turns them off in the park position. But yeah, wrapping this up, 89 Maxima motor in the 3rd gen. It works surprisingly well. As I said, if my motor wasn't didn't have a problem with the park, I can have it working like 100%. I got to try to find another wiper linkage, but for now, all I really wanted was low speed, just so if I get caught in the rain, I won't be blind. I'm going to put some links in the description. I don't really have a a link for the motor. I guess I could put a link from like Rock Auto or something if you want to buy like a new one. But I got mine on eBay. It was like 35 bucks used. You might be better off just getting a new one. I think they're maybe like $60 on Rock Auto, because you could run into a problem like me where you get one that has like a bad park circuit or it just doesn't work altogether. I'm also going to put a link for the Thirdgen Thread, or the guy pulled it out of his Maxima, put it in his Thirdgen, found out it worked, and as well as the 2 YouTube videos that I watched. Fortunately, I don't have any sound clips or pulls for you guys in this video. The car actually isn't running at the moment. I did go and finish up the rear. 411s are in. Actually, my parking brake works great now too. I gave the calipers a fresh paint job, put some new pads in there. While I had it apart, I greased the return mechanism for the parking brake. Once I put it all back together, I actually got to back the cables off, and the brake literally comes up a few clicks and it actually pulls the car really nicely. But the reason it isn't running is because my bypass valve went out. This guy right over here. I think I explained this when I was putting the blower on, but this thing gets vacuum at idle and pulls this butterfly inside the intake open. So pretty much, unless you're at wide open throttle, the car isn't really making boost. Once you go wide open throttle, that thing doesn't get vacuum anymore. The throttle blade closes, and then that forces boost into the motor. But the diaphragm in here actually ruptured. So you start the car up, this thing doesn't pull open, it's just closed all the time, which means the motor is getting boost at like any RPM. Not only can you overheat the blower, but the biggest concern for me is the fact that the car is making boost in a bunch of places where it's not supposed to, and the car was in tune like that. So yeah, it could potentially go lean and just blow the thing up. So I can't drive it until that comes in. I did order it. It should be here in a couple of days. So next video, I'll have that up and running for you guys for sure. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. As always, the link to my Instagram is going to be in the description. Go check that out. I'm always posting pictures of the car as I'm working on it. Had sneak peeks of the wiper motor as I was installing it, as well as I just posted a couple of cool pics of when I first bought the car when it was still a 2.8. So you can kind of see the transformation from like 4 years ago up until now. And of course, as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.